Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Monday, August 1st, 2022, 10 a.m. Central, in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Well, we are back from our month long summer hiatus. Are we refreshed? Are we excited? Are we grognardy? Well, Sarah seems to think so, and I have to agree. Grognard all day. Well, we're not going to spend too much time catching back up because we've got a lot to cover in the second half of 2022. Just, just getting into magic items, and at this point, we're just getting to the wonderful uh, ring section. We'll go over we'll go over the rings table, and then we'll go into the descriptions of the rings. This, of course, is all in the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide. That's first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide in the magic item section. So that's what we'll be looking at. And really, without any further ado, boom, rings. I got to bring it up on my own monitor here where it's close enough that I can actually read it. So there you go. You know, you got to roll percentage dice to see what kind of ring if you're rolling on the table for the ring. You might be picking something out based on how much experience it gives or based on the gold piece value, sale value. But either way, those are considerations for your own campaign. If you're randomly rolling up what that ring is based on a random treasure, from a 1 to a 6 on the percentage dice gets you a ring of contrariness, and from 7 to 12 gets you a ring of delusion. Neither of those has an experience point value because, much like weakness, which is way down further on the list, there it is, you are getting something that is not good for you. 13 to 14, just a couple. Djinn summoning. That's got a special denotation after it. I'll get to that because a few others do as well. Rolling just a 15, Elemental Command. It's a biggie for early part of the list. 5,000 experience, 25,000 gold piece value. Note that Contrariness and Delusion still have 1,000 and 2,000 gold piece sale value, perhaps because they can be used nefariously. They are still magic. I mean, if you could wipe the magic off of them, you could imbue them with different magic. So, in a sense, much like when people forge artwork, they might clear off an old canvas so that they have an old canvas and frame to help fool potential victims when they're trying to sell their redone artwork or their fraudulent artwork. 3,000 experience for the Djinn summoning and 20,000 gold piece value. You'll note on the list that both of those, the Djinn summoning and elemental command, are pretty high up, both in experience and GP value. So keep that in mind when you're randomly rolling. You don't want to necessarily destroy a campaign by giving away something that's ridiculously good at low levels and could break the local economy in the village where their home base might be. Featherfall from 16 to 21, that's 1,000 experience, 5,000 gold piece value, a good low level item. Anything at 1,000 experience or 2,000, 1,500 is pretty good at low levels as rings go. Fire resistance, 1,000 and 5,000 also, from 22 to 27. That's what, 6? 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, so 6% chance for the fire resistance. Free action, 3% chance. Again, we'll get into description, but free action's pretty slick for thief type characters in particular, since they can often wind up in custody. Human influence, again, that denotation 31, 32, 33, 2,000 experience points, 10,000 gold piece value. Invisibility. I always wondered why this was so high on the list uh, as far as how often it comes up, because man, it's a really good item. 34 to 40%, only 15, not as high as human influence, but higher than the lowest ones. 7,500 for the gold piece value. Sarah mentions, how do you know what is too good for their level? You know, that's a good question. You kind of got to wing it in some ways, but relative to the entirety of the list, and knowing that if you were going to give a ring at all at low level, you'd certainly want to start with the lowest ones on the list. Now, different campaigns can be run very different ways. I can run a first level campaign or a campaign that is currently at first level, and you could run one that is currently at first level, and they can diverge wildly as far as the power level of them. Now, it may be my power level in my campaign is lower than yours. Doesn't mean either one's bad or wrong, but yours will certainly, at a higher power level, advance more quickly if we're both doling out experience based on the same things. That is, based on gold pieces and gold piece value, based on treasure. Um, if you're doing something alternate where it's based on monsters, certainly if your power level is higher and you've got um, more items in the hands of magic items in the hands of player characters, it'll be much easier for them to deal with threats, monsters, NPCs that are evil villains. So they will naturally get through those challenges more quickly and will probably accumulate more treasure because of it. And there's a sort of a snowball effect where they will move up, advance very quickly through levels. And not so true with let's say, a grittier campaign where um, early encounters are, a couple of bandits. Sound familiar? Or a bully in the neighborhood in the village where everybody's starting off. So that's sort of the thing to keep in mind when you're running a campaign, what sort of power level you want it to be at. If you are giving out items, think about how they'll be used by the players. You won't always be right, but if a low level thief, for instance, has an invisibility ring, it's going to get pretty easy for them to apply their trade. Let's continue. 41 to 43, mammal control, 1,000, 5,000 on the experience and the gold piece value. Multiple wishes, only on a 44, 5,000, 25,000, so that's a pretty high one. But notice it's on a par with Elemental Command, according to this table. Again, one of those denotations. We'll get down there. Protection, 2,000 to 4,000, 10,000 to 20,000, much like with the scrolls, depending on what it is. There is a range of different types, but 45 to 60 on the roll 'em up percentage table possibility. So that one is protection rings are a lot more common than many of these others. Regeneration just on a 61. Notice we're well into the second half now. 5,000, 40,000. They break the convention here. Up till now, if it was a 5,000 experience point, it was a 25,000 gold piece value. Here, a jump to 40,000. Something worth noting. Shooting stars, 62 or a 63 on the roll. 3,000 experience. 15,000 on the gold piece value. 2,500 or a 22,500 gold piece value for the spell storing ring. only appears for 2%, 64 and 65. Spell turning, 66, 67, 68, 69, 4% on the spell turning, 2,000. Bit of a jump from the usual 10,000, and it goes to 17,500 for the gold piece value on the spell turning. Swimming, 70 to 75, pretty common. 1,000 only on the experience, 5,000 typical on the gold piece value. Telekinesis, 76, 77 on the roll. We've got one of those denotations. 2,000 and 10,000 on the experience and gold piece value. 3 wishes, 78 to 79, so 2% on the table. 3,000 and 15,000. Warmth, 80 to 85, a pretty solid ring for low levels. 1,000 and 5,000 on the experience. Water walking, 1,000, 5,000 again, and 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, so 5 on the water walking percent chance. Weakness, one of those nasty ones, but look at how prevalent it is, 91 to 98. Pretty high chance of getting one. Of course, no experience, but still worth 1,000. Wizardry, denoted only for magic users. This is the only ring on here that is restricted use to one class. 99 on the table, 4,000 to 50,000. 00, 100 for X-ray vision on the table, 4,000, but only 35, not the 50 as the wizardry was. George is here. Welcome back. Thank you, George. Hope your summer has been good. It's been a pretty solid summer. A little hot out there, but we're enjoying it. George says Ring of Regeneration is a big-time pickup. So is the wizardry for AD&D. Both very true. And note the differences, too, in the prices. The experience is a little higher for the regeneration at 5,000 compared to 4,000 for the wizardry, but the gold piece value for the regeneration a little lower, 40,000 as compared to 50,000. I want to tell you what, I think we're over in 130. Where are we at on rings? Yeah, there we are. Popped right over to it. Look at that. Classy. This Grognard knows his stuff. How we doing on time so far? Well, we're 13 minutes into the show. We're just getting into the descriptions. Let's see how this goes. Maybe we'll run a little long just to knock them all out. As the rings description section begins, it says, all magic rings will normally radiate magic, but most are impossible to detect as magic rings without some mystic means. Furthermore, all magic rings look alike, so that determination of a given ring's magical powers is very difficult. The ring must be put on and various things tried in order to find what it does. This requires patience on your part, but the game demands it. No ring radiates good or evil. No more than 2 magic rings can be worn by a character at the same time. If more are worn, then none will function. No more than 1 magic ring can be worn on the same hand. A second will cause both to be useless. Rings must be worn on the fingers. Rings on toes and earlobes, etc. do not function as magic rings. Rings, spell-like abilities function at 12th level of magic use, unless the power requires a higher level of magic use. The latter function at the minimum level for magic use necessary to cast the equivalent spell. Magic rings can be worn and used by all character classes and humanoids, not specifically prohibited elsewhere. You might allow monsters with digits to wear magic rings, and some can actually benefit from them. For example, a troll, thin and rubbery, could wear a ring of regeneration and gain its benefits in addition to its normal regenerative abilities. Rings can be used by any race of character, but those worn by gnomes, dwarves, and halflings have a 20% chance per use of malfunctioning. If a malfunction occurs, the ring simply does not work. This applies to cursed rings, contrariness, delusion, weakness as well. If they do not work, they are recognized and can be removed. That's in regard to those three uh, cursed rings, if you will, which normally cannot be removed. We'll get to that. Note the symbol appearing on the rings table and in the following description denotes rings of the most powerful magic abilities, which will often possess a limited number of magical charges at the option of the DM. I'm a big proponent of this. Let's continue with the descriptions, although what have we got over here? George says perhaps wizards are willing to overpay for the wizardry ring, and that's why it's more expensive. Yeah, absolutely true. When we see the description, we'll kind of see why, I think. I'll get there in just a minute. Ring of Contrariness. This magic ring is cursed so as to make its wearer unable to agree with any idea or statement or action. Once put on, the ring can be removed only after a remove curse spell is cast upon the individual wearing it. Because of the curse, the wearer will resist any attempt to cast such a spell. Furthermore, the Contrariness ring will have one of the following additional magical properties. A percentage die table here, 20% for most of these. Flying, invisibility, levitation, 10% for the shocking grasp, and then once per round on that as well. Spell turning, only 10%, and then strength, 18,100. So, you could be an obstinate person with a strength of 18,100 and just put up with it. Certainly, anybody finds out that they are wearing this and that somebody's going to cast a remove curse, you've got to fight against that. It's the nature of being cursed. But maybe once you know, it actually, as a player, is something you don't mind. But contrariness can be a campaign killer. So watch out for that. Note that contrariness can never be removed from the ring. The wearer will use his or her own powers plus those of the ring to retain it on his or her finger. The wearer of the ring will never damage him or herself. If, for example, other characters suggest the wearer should make certain that attacks upon him or her are well defended against, or that he or she should not strike his or her own head, the wearer will agree, possibly attacking or striking the speaker's head, because obviously the result must be contrary in this case. If a ring of contrariness turns spells, the cumulative remove curse cast upon the individual wearing it must equal or exceed 100%. So very tough to get this off. So too with the ring of delusion. A delusion ring will convince the wearer that it is some other sort of ring, a ring of whatever sort the wearer really desires. As the wearer will be completely convinced that the ring is actually one with other magical properties, he or she will unconsciously use his or her abilities of any sort, including those of other magical items available, to actually produce the result commensurate with the supposed properties of the delusion ring. As a referee, you will have to be most judicious in determining how successful the self-delusion can be, as well as how observers can be affected and what they will observe. The ring can be removed at any time. So this is one of those weird ones in that the delusion only makes you believe that whatever you think the ring is happening. But you can take the ring off, and if an effect hasn't come to pass, once the ring is off, you're not deluded about it. So if you thought you were casting a fireball or whatever you thought the ring would do, and you take the ring off and you see that no fire damage has happened, you'll become aware of it being delusional. Um, I'm not huge on all rings. I'm not big on all rings looking exactly alike. I like the idea that some rings will be ornate and some will be very plain. Um, I think it's helpful for many of them to be simple bands, bands of gold, bands of silver, but I don't need them all to look exactly alike. Jin summoning, one with charges potentially. One of the many fabled rings of fantasy legend, the genie ring is most useful indeed, for it is a special gate by means of a certain by means of which a certain jinn can be summoned from the elemental plane of air. When the ring is rubbed and the summons is served, the jinn will appear on the next round. The jinn will faithfully obey and serve the wearer of the ring. But if the servant of the ring is ever killed, the ring becomes non magical and is worthless. See Advanced Dungeon Dragon Monster Manual for details on the Jin's abilities and capabilities. Pretty useful. Ring of Elemental Command. And don't forget, this is also a companion. Uh, this is a thinking being, sentient being with years and years of experience. So perhaps one of the most useful things isn't just to summon this to fight for you, but rather to summon it for information. Utilize it as a sage. Make sure it never gets killed, because how handy is it too for you to be able to summon this thing and for it to be able to help you escape from a dangerous situation in a non-combative way. So keep those things in mind when offering this up, or if you're a player, it's worth doing this. I think mostly I tend to read and make comments about these things for dungeon masters, but it's worth noting that too. Ring of Elemental Command. Oh, checking with the chat here. Do magic rings resize to users' finger size? I suspect they would have to. I've always had them do that. They are magic, and it would be pretty useless to have a bunch of different size rings or have them have to be resized for individuals. So I let them grow larger or become smaller as the needs of the individual may be. Ring of Elemental Command. The four types of Elemental Command rings are very powerful. Each appears to be nothing more than a lesser ring detailed below, but each has certain other powers as well as the following common properties. Elementals of the plane to which the ring is attuned cannot approach within 5 feet of or attack the wearer, or if the wearer desires, he or she may forego this protection and instead attempt to charm the elemental. Saving throw applicable at -2 on the die, not on the table, so it makes it tougher to save. If the latter fails, however, total protection is lost and no further attempt at charming can be made, but the secondary properties given below will then function with respect to the elemental. 2. Creatures other than normal elementals from the plane to which the ring is attuned attack at -1 on their to hit dice, making it tougher for them to attack. The ring wearer takes damage at -1 on each hit die, so they're half-hearted, partially hearted attacks. Um, Makes applicable saving throws against the creature's attacks at +2, better for the saver. All attacks are made by the wearer of the ring at +4 to hit. So somebody wearing a ring can attack elementals at much better percentage of hitting. Or -4 the elemental saving throw. The wearer does +6 damage. Total, not per die. Adjusted by any other applicable bonus and or penalties. Any weapon used by the ring wearer can hit elementals or elemental creatures even if it is not magical. Number 3, the wearer. These are common properties to all of these rings of elemental command. Number 3, the wearer of the ring is able to converse with the elementals or elemental creatures of the plane to which the ring is attuned, and they will recognize that he or she wears the ring. So they are at least going to show a healthy respect to the wearer because of the advantage that they bestow. If alignment is opposed, the respect will be fear. If the wearer is strong, hatred and a desire to slay. If the wearer is weak. Number 4, in addition, the possessor of the Ring of Elemental Command will suffer a saving throw penalty as follows. Air, -2 versus fire. Earth, -2 versus petrification. Fire, -2 versus water or cold. Water, -2 versus lightning, electricity. And 5th common power, only one power, whether major or minor, of a Ring of Elemental Command can be in use at any one time. So powers that have a continuous effect cannot be overlapped. With the air, the wearer could produce the following magical effects: gust of wind once per round. And durations of these are as per the spells. And remember, we've got a 12th level. All rings function as 12th level per spell effects, and unless the spell requires somebody to be higher to cast it, in which case they will function as the higher level. Fly, super good, but you can't cast a wall of force while you're flying. It's once per day on the wall of force, once per week on control winds. Invisibility. The ring will appear to be nothing more than an invisibility ring until a certain condition is met, such as having the ring blessed, slaying an air elemental, or whatever you determine necessary to activate its full potential. Earth. The wearer can, at will, produce the following effects when wearing a elemental command ring for Earth. Hey, he made it to the show. Check it out. Versin Mikiritiorix 603. I'll never pronounce that right, will I? But thanks for coming here. Thanks for being here. It's much appreciated. The Earth ones, Stone Tell once per day. Pass Wall twice per day. Wall of Stone once per day. Stone to Flesh twice per week. Move Earth only once per week. And Featherfall will appear as nothing more than a Featherfall. Ring until the condition you establish is met. So, there's a lot of GM leeway to decide on how these rings manifest and reveal themselves. But often I like for things like that to be if if you note that a player is in a certain situation where, oh, I'm stuck in this prison and if only I could just walk out of here, and they lean against a wall nearby and you just allow pass wall to work. It only happens twice per day, but in this case, boom, they're through the wall. So some of these things you can kind of work humorously into revealing themselves. Now, up until then, right, they thought this was just a Featherfall ring. Great, it does a lot for them. But if you've dropped it into a campaign, even just randomly, it's much more interesting if they have some awareness that there's more to this, if not completely figure it out. Maybe they only figure out one or two ability from it. Maybe they don't have the lore knowledge or whatever to get all the information and know its elemental command. Maybe these are things that can be revealed as the campaign progresses, and they gain more power and go up in levels, so that the ring, although it was always very powerful, is only kind of revealing itself along the way. Let's look at fire. The wearer can produce the following magical effects: burning hands once per turn, pyrotechnics twice per day, fire, wall of fire once per day, flame strike twice per week, and fire resistance. And the ring itself appears as and functions as a ring of fire resistance. In regard to the water elemental command ring, the wearer can at will produce the following magical effects. And remember, as stated above, these can't overlap. Only one of these can be in effect at any given time. Purify water, well, that just takes a moment, so it's never going to have to overlap when you're casting that, unless you're already doing something else, like walking on water. But would you purify the stuff under your feet? I don't know. Create water once per day. Water breathing, a 5-foot radius. Wall of ice once per day. Airy water. Lower water twice per week. Part water twice per week. And water walking. And the ring appears as a ring of water walking until the condition you establish is met. Once again, you can figure out some way to bring this in. Somebody falls and is going to land in water, and then they realize they're not wet because they've landed on top. Say with a water walking, you might not ever break the surface of water. Some people have you do a little splashy thing as you walk across water, but your call. Rings operate at 12th level experience as stated before, or the minimum level needed to perform an equivalent magical spell, if greater with respect to the range, duration, the area of effect, determinations which might apply. The additional powers take only 5 segments to bring forth. So they happen in half a round, which is a good thing. Ring of Feather Fall. This ring protects its wearer by automatic activation of a feather fall if the individual falls 5 feet or more. Very handy. And a good low level one, too. Oh, it's Skull and Pants. I did not realize that, Mike. Thank you. You got a new name. You're incognito, or do you use 2 different accounts? Either way, nice to know who's here. I'm recording. I'm already at 32 minutes. I think, given how much is left here, I'm going to call it right now. And we will do the next show, completing the descriptions from the rings, because I don't like to go over a half hour and we're already there. So we'll never get through this without another half hour's work. Keep calm and roll initiative. This shirt, by the way, I won't throw a link in the description because I'm not selling them, but I will say it's armor class 10 .com or something like that. It's I just picked it up over the break. Thought I'd wear it. Tell you where it's from. I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. They're not a sponsor. Speaking of which, we should definitely have a look over here. Where are we at? There we are. And say, we've been having a look at the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide section on magic items, specifically the table for rings and the beginning of the descriptions thereof. We will look to part 9 in this series on magic items to complete the ring section here. It has been a blast coming back from the hiatus. I also want to say the show streams live on Twitch each Monday at 10 a.m. Central and then is archived on YouTube. I want to thank our Patreon supporters: Tom Tullis of Fat Dragon Games, Rick Hershey of Fat Goblin Games, Carlos Lysing of Castle Entertainment, Heath Farndon of the NPD and D20, Dave O'Brien of 4 Quacks Games, and Shane Bradley, DM extraordinaire. Links for all of these folks will be in the description on YouTube. Hey, had a good show. I want to thank everybody for coming back. Skull and Pants, Artanis, Lexfire, thanks for chiming in on the chat as well. It is greatly appreciated. Hey, don't forget, if you're checking us out on Twitch, be sure to follow the channel, and please do chime in on the chat. Let us know you're here. We like to interact while we're doing this. If you're catching up with this on YouTube, by all means, subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell so you get a notification when a new video is uploaded. And also, please do give a thumbs up for any videos that you listen to, watch, and enjoy. And by all means, also, there it says, Mondays are now Mondayier. Very nice. It has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.